When you picture Cleopatra, you probably see the ultimate Egyptian queen, the powerful, mysterious ruler of the Nile, draped in gold and linen, the last in a line of pharaohs stretching back thousands of years. But what if I told you the most famous Egyptian queen wasn't really Egyptian at all? What if I told you her family tree connects her more to Alexander the Great than to King Tut? This is the story of a shocking historical truth, a 300-year Greek dynasty that ruled Egypt, and the one woman at the very end who dared to be different. This is how the last great pharaoh of Egypt was actually Greek. To get how this happened, we have to rewind about 300 years before Cleopatra was even born. It's 332 BC. A young, fiercely ambitious Macedonian king, Alexander the Great, marches his army into Egypt, kicking out the Persian Empire. The Egyptians, tired of foreign rule, welcomed him not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. They honored him as a pharaoh, a living god on earth. But Alexander's ambitions were global. He soon left Egypt to continue his conquest of the known world, leaving its administration in the hands of his commanders. When Alexander died suddenly in 323 BC, without a clear heir, his massive empire was torn apart by his generals. Out of this chaos, one of Alexander's sharpest companions, a Macedonian general named Ptolemy, made a brilliant move. He seized the wealthiest prize of the fractured empire, Egypt. He even hijacked Alexander's funeral procession, bringing the great conqueror's body to be entombed in Egypt, a powerful symbol of legitimacy. In 305 BC, he declared himself King Ptolemy Sota, which means the savior. He wasn't just a king, he was the first pharaoh of a brand new dynasty, the Ptolemaic dynasty. This wasn't an Egyptian dynasty, it was a Macedonian Greek dynasty, and it would rule Egypt for the next 3 centuries, ending only with the death of its most famous descendant, Cleopatra VII. The Ptolemies ruled Egypt, but they were not of Egypt. They set up their capital in Alexandria, a coastal city founded by Alexander that they turned into the glittering jewel of the Hellenistic world. It was a hub of Greek culture, language, and thought, home to the legendary Great Library and the Museum, a research institute that attracted the greatest minds of the Greek-speaking world. Cleopatra herself was a product of this environment, getting a top-tier Greek education in philosophy, oration, and science. For nearly 300 years, the Ptolemies governed as a foreign elite. They spoke Greek, passed laws in Greek, and lived by Greek customs, while they used the pharaonic imagery on temples to keep their Egyptian subjects happy. At court and in their hearts, they were Greek through and through. So how did this Greek family hold on to power for so long? One of their most shocking strategies was designed to keep their bloodline pure, incestuous marriage, starting with Ptolemy the son, who married his full sister Arsinoe. Brother-sister marriage became a family signature. To other Greeks, this was scandalous, but the Ptolemies likely saw it as a way to consolidate power and elevate their family to divine status, setting them apart from everyone else. This was the world Cleopatra was born into in 69 BC, a world of Greek culture, brutal family politics, and a deep-seated separation from the Egyptian people they ruled. For generations, her ancestors had refused to learn the local language. They were rulers in Egypt, but not culturally rulers of Egypt. And this is what makes Cleopatra's story so incredible. Cleopatra VII. Cleopatra, whose name means the father-loving goddess, was the last of this long, messy line. And she was different. While her ancestors stayed in their Greek bubble, Cleopatra did the unthinkable. She learned to speak Egyptian. The impact of this simple act is hard to overstate. It was a move of pure political genius. Imagine being ruled for 300 years by foreigners who couldn't say a word to you directly. Suddenly, here was a queen who could address her people in their own tongue. She presented herself not just as a Greek queen, but as a true pharaoh, the reincarnation of the goddess Isis. This act earned her a loyalty that military power alone never could. But she didn't stop there. The ancient historian Plutarch tells us Cleopatra was a brilliant polyglot who spoke at least 9 languages, including Ethiopian, Hebrew, Arabic, and Parthian. She could negotiate directly with ambassadors from across the known world without an interpreter. This wasn't a party trick. It was a powerful diplomatic weapon. For centuries, Roman historians, justifying their conquest, painted Cleopatra as a wicked seductress who used her looks to trap powerful men. But this is a cheap caricature. Ancient sources and coins suggest her power wasn't conventional beauty, but her irresistible charm, her wit, and above all, her towering intellect. It was her mind and political savvy that captivated giants like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, not just her looks. Cleopatra's famous relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony weren't just love affairs, they were bold geopolitical alliances. She inherited a kingdom squeezed by the ever-growing power of Rome. Her goal was singular: to protect Egypt's independence and secure her family's dynasty. She allied with Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome, to secure her throne from her rival siblings. Their alliance produced a son, Caesarion, whom she declared Caesar's heir, a direct challenge to Rome. After Caesar's assassination, she forged an even bigger alliance with Mark Antony, both politically and personally. They ruled the eastern half of the Roman world from Alexandria, and she bore him 3 more children. Their goal was to create a new Hellenistic Roman Empire with Alexandria as its capital, one that could rival Rome itself. For a moment, it seemed like it could actually work. But this ambition put them on a collision course with Caesar's calculating heir, Octavian. In a brilliant propaganda war, Octavian painted Antony as a Roman traitor, bewitched by a foreign sorceress. The message was clear: Cleopatra was a threat to Rome itself. The war that followed wasn't just a Roman civil war, it was a clash of civilizations. Rome versus Alexandria, West versus East. The final act played out at the naval battle of Actium in 31 BC, where their forces were crushed. Rather than be paraded through Rome in chains as Octavian's prize, Cleopatra made her final move. After Antony took his own life, she barricaded herself in her tomb and, as legend has it, committed suicide. With her death in 30 BC, the 300-year reign of the Ptolemaic dynasty ended. Her son, Caesarion, technically held the title of Pharaoh for a few days before he was killed by Octavian, making him the literal last pharaoh, but Cleopatra was the last effective ruler of Egypt. The age of the pharaohs was over forever. The story of Cleopatra is packed with these kinds of mind-blowing details that often get lost in the myths. We're all about digging up surprising truths that challenge what you thought you knew about history. If you want to join us, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video, where we'll investigate why Columbus never discovered America. So, Cleopatra wasn't Egyptian. She was a Macedonian Greek, the final product of a long line of foreign rulers. Yet, she was also the only one in her dynasty who truly bothered to learn the language and connect with the Egyptian world she ruled. And to truly appreciate her place in history, consider this one last staggering fact. The Great Pyramid of Giza was completed around 2560 BC. Cleopatra died in 30 BC. The first iPhone was released in 2007. This means Cleopatra lived closer in time to the launch of the iPhone than she did to the construction of the Great Pyramids. The pyramids were more ancient to her than she is to us. She was a modern woman in an ancient land, a Greek queen who became the last great pharaoh, caught between the legacy of Alexander and the unstoppable rise of Rome. Her story is a powerful reminder that history is always more complex, more surprising, and more fascinating than we think.